Hey friends, today I wanted to talk about the danger of being vulnerable as a man. Now, in Brené Brown's book, Daring Greatly, she has a whole chapter on how men feel shame. And the biggest component of that is that we cannot show our vulnerability. From an early age, we get the message that it's not safe for us to cry, it's not safe for us to show our anger, it's definitely not safe for us to show our fear. Like, that is the biggest one. We get told things like, don't be a pussy, homosexual slurs like, don't be a fag, almost as if the worst thing imaginable for a straight guy is being called gay, unfortunately. And my gay friends out there, I'm really sorry that you had to see that and go through that yourselves. So we just have this amazing pressure on us as men that we can't show our emotions, we can't share our fears, our anger, our sadness. It's kind of drilled into us from stereotypes on TV and films and shows where, the tough guy is stoic and doesn't show his emotion and turns up and fights and gets into these altercations. And yet that's not really what happens in the real world. Many of us don't get into fights, don't want to get into fights, don't think that's the right way of moving through the world as a man. Yet this is the image that we're told that we should be continually around us. And especially men to men. You're in that sporting environment, there is nothing worse than getting told you're weak. We're petrified of that as men, and we want to do everything we can so that we'll never be labelled as weak. And we've been doing this our whole lives. And unfortunately, what this does is it creates this massive disconnect between the emotions we feel and how we're able to handle them. And, in a healthy environment where our full self is kind of encouraged to be, we would cry, we would shout, we'd be angry, we'd talk about our fears, and then we would tend to move through those emotions pretty quickly. Often, when you're faced with an emotion, really it's just your body and your mind giving you information about a situation. I'm scared. Well, I'm going to do something that I find difficult. I'm angry. Something's stopping me from what I want to do, or it's getting in my way, or it's threatening me. And what should happen is we should feel those emotions fully, and then we can move through them fairly quickly. Instead, what happens is we have to push these emotions down. They're like kind of stuck down and rammed down. And what happens then is that these emotions build up over years and years and years, and then men start acting in really toxic ways because they're really depressed or they're hugely angry, and then they start acting out and reacting to what might be seemingly small things, but they're triggering this well of anger that's never been dealt with. So it's just vital for us as men to have healthy outlets for that. And many of us use sport in that way. We kind of get that aggression out on the playing field, if it's a team sport or a kind of, like masculine sport. And then when we get older and this environment has gone, we don't have an outlet for it anymore. And it can spill out everywhere. It can affect our relationships, our friendships, affect us as parents. And I think this is one of the reasons why men just feel so angry right now, and they don't know where their place is in the world. Women have always been much better at supporting each other, asking for help, giving help, and men, we're terrible at it. And you just think how difficult it is as a man to create friendships. I moved to America. I knew 2 people when I moved to America. And as a man, you can't go up to another guy in a gym and say, hey buddy, like the way you're working out, you look really strong, you want to be my friend? It just is so uncomfortable for us to do that. We have this fear that we will then be seen as gay, and somehow that's this horrible slur for straight men. And it's just a really difficult thing for us to do. And it's a real driver for me personally, is creating community so that I have friends. The reason I first got into cycling coaching is so that I had people to train with, so that I could create some community. Why do I do the work I do now, the emotional coaching, the leadership work, working with entrepreneurs? It's to help them create really good, powerful communities, for them to be really good, clean, ethical leaders who are, like strong in their masculinity, but in a healthy way. So it's vital for us men to be able to have these communities, and yet the flip side is it's so difficult for us to do it. And also we get this pressure from women too. From my own personal experience, I was in a relationship, I was in a long-term relationship. I broke my shoulder in a crash. I was 35 years old. For the first time in my life, I truly felt vulnerable. I'd never been to a hospital before. I had to have an operation. I'd badly broken the bones in my shoulder. I had to have a complicated operation on it. It actually ended up being 2 operations. And I didn't tell any of my friends. I didn't tell my girlfriend at the time how I was feeling. And I went to the hospital and I was petrified. Like, I can tell you now, I was absolutely petrified because I'd never been in that situation before. I'd never had a general anesthetic. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was dating this girl, and it was the first time that she'd really seen me vulnerable. I was always the strong one. She was usually the vulnerable one. That was how our dynamic played out. Suddenly it was the opposite. And she was great at helping me, helping me wash and feed and stuff like that, all those kind of things. She was great, but she didn't want to see my vulnerability. It was very uncomfortable for her to see that. So as guys, not only do we get this message from other men, we get it from women too. They tell us they want us to be in touch with our emotions. And what often I think they really mean is they want us to be available to them, for them to share their emotions with us. But when we try to share our emotions with them, they can get very uncomfortable. So part of finding our way in the world as men is we've also got to display to our female partners, that it's okay for us to be vulnerable. It's okay for us to have these feelings. It's okay for them to support us, and it's okay for us to share what's going on. And how do we do this? What outlets are there for us as men? How do we make these connections with other men? How do we, have these skillful conversations with our partners where we can start to share what's going on for us without it threatening them, without them thinking, hey, this guy's now so vulnerable, where does my support come from? So how do we share that we can be vulnerable and still be there for them as, quote unquote, strong men that can be there and can help them through their stuff? So it's difficult for guys, and we're seeing this with, especially with middle-aged men who are committing suicides at record rates because they don't have an outlet for their vulnerability. They don't know how to ask for help. They don't know how to say, hey, I'm struggling. So they just jump straight to taking their life, which is so sad. So, my purpose is to create these opportunities for men to be healthily vulnerable, where we can share what's going on for us, in a group with other men, or one-to-one with me as a coach, or with Ryan as a coach. And you've got that opportunity to really sink into what's going for you in this safe environment where you're not going to get judged. You're not going to get called a pussy. You're not going to get told you're weak. You're just going to get someone or a group of men who are going, okay, I hear you. And often who will be saying, wow, I'm going through the same experience you are, or I've been through the same experience you are. I know what it's like to feel the pain of a breakup. I know what it's like to, struggle with what my purpose is in life and doing a job that I don't like and thinking, what is this all about? Is this me for the next 50 years of my life? So men, I really want to speak to you and let you know that there is outlets for you. There are places where that you will feel welcome. Reach out to me, reach out to Ryan, just talk to us. There doesn't need to be any agenda to it. We offer these open free consultations where you can just reach out to us, talk to us about what is going on for you. And we're here to meet where you're at right now with no judgment, with kind of an open heart to what you're experiencing. I have been there. In my late 20s, I really didn't know what the hell I wanted to do with my life. I knew I was doing a career that I didn't enjoy, outwardly I was super successful, had the flash car, had a really nice apartment in Brighton, was dating a great looking girl, and yet inside I felt like so lonely, like desperately lonely, and didn't know what my purpose was and what it was all about, even though my bank account looked great and my business was thriving. I knew that it wasn't serving me, and I knew that I was really unhappy. So, we just want to share this journey with you guys. We want to let you know that there are people here that you can talk to. I get that it can be really intimidating as a man after you've had years of being told, don't show you're weak, don't tell people how you feel. Whatever you do, don't tell them that you're sad, afraid, or scared. Those emotions are seen as being like just the opposite of what it is to be a man. Yeah, that's just toxic bullshit, and we've got to drop that, because that's not how we used to be. We didn't used to be like that in tribal times. Men would share stories, they would share emotions, and you would use those emotions. Just as you see little children when they go through emotions, you can watch a little kid and they're screaming and crying, and then 30 seconds later they're giggling and they're laughing, or they're afraid and then immediately they're laughing again afterwards. That's what's meant to happen with us for emotions. They're just tools, they're information to let us know what's going on in the world around us, when challenges are being presented at us. And instead, what we do is, as I said earlier, we stick these things down, we put them in boxes, and that's what leads to depression. That's what leads to illness. That's why men have heart attacks in their 50s. The things that particularly affect men are often around this incongruity between our emotions, our mental state, and our physical body. And they manifest, they end up showing up in actual physical harm to us. Heart disease, bad backs, stress headaches, migraines, all of these things that we can suffer from. So I just want to say, guys, we're here. There's men here. Talk to your friends, reach out to your friends, reach out to us. I want to know that there is a different way that we can be as men in the world, and we can still live up to what it means to be a man. You can still be strong, you can still be tough, and you can show your vulnerability. They don't have to be different things. They're not opposite. Real strength is being able to show your vulnerability because it invites other people in. That's how we make strong connections. That's how we really build friendships. You'll notice this in your life. The more vulnerable you are with your friends, the deeper those friendships get, and the closer you become, and the more you're able to share with each other, and the more people will trust you. There's something incredibly inviting and trustworthy about authenticity, and we all know when somebody's not being authentic. You can tell when you say, hey, how are you doing? They're like, oh, I'm okay. And we can tell when you're not. So hey guys, reach out to us, reach out to your friends, talk as men, let's get a conversation going. What does it mean to be a man now? With all of today's modern pressures and things thrown about us and the internet and social media, how can we change the narrative and get back to being great men and great parts of our society? I look forward to continuing this chat. Thanks.